Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick. Coming up on the programme this week.
With mental health, when you're stuck in that kind of bubble, it's kind of all-consuming. These messages are there to distract you in a good way and to make your experience as you're out there, you're worried about things, is to make you stop and to make you pause and reflect. And when people do that, things are more easy to deal with.
We're trying to use the power of nature to brighten people's day because the installations really do appeal to the senses.
This display is the perfect example of how you can use something to talk about mental health that maybe you wouldn't associate with mental health.
And I'll be reminding you how you can make connections with mental health organisations within your community. It's Mental Health Monday. Hey folks, I know you've been super busy, so thanks for swinging by for this week's Mental Health Monday. My name's Mick Coyle. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and to sort of deliver various different mental health messages to your ears via podcast here at Mental Health Monday. And once again, thanks to everybody supporting the project that we've got ongoing here, which is to basically normalise mental health conversations for everyone, everywhere. And actually it fits in quite nicely with the theme to this week's conversation, which is about our rail network. Now, as we've heard on the programme before, a rail network is a real focal point for people who are suffering with a mental health crisis, dealing with around about 25 plus a week, which is a really, really high number. And for that reason, Network Rail take their responsibility really seriously to engage with the mental health world. They've done it before through the Hub of Hope, the promotion of the work that they do there. And in the build-up to World Mental Health Day 2021, they're going to be installing green spaces and inspiration boards in various different stations up and down the country to engage with passengers who are now using those stations once again, to spread that positivity and to also signpost to services like the Hub of Hope, where you can get access to services. These are going to be sort of green spaces, flower boards. They're also going to include in the leaflets that they give away seeds, so that if you actually plant the leaflet, you get flowers that grow, which is a pretty neat thing to do. And it's about almost creating a distraction. Commuters who would otherwise just be engaged in, the regular commute to and from work, to almost inspire them to see things a little bit different, to read some of the quotes, the inspirational boards created by the poet James McInerney. And instead of, thinking about, which takeaway they're going to buy from an advert or which coffee shop they're going to be seeing advertised right across the station, they're going to be instead, hopefully, inspired to think about themselves and to think about their own sense of feelings. How are they getting on? How are they coping? And to have a little bit of a mindful moment before they go and embark on the rest of the day. So the conversation today is with the founder of the Poetry Project, James McInerney, and also the suicide prevention lead for Network Rail, Louise McNally. We'll hear from Louise in a few moments' time. Also dropping by is Jake Mills, the CEO of Chasing the Stigma. Now, Jake is the founder of the Hub of Hope, who are working alongside Network Rail to promote these messages. First, let's just hear from James, though, the poet who's behind these inspirational boards going up in these stations right across the country, to hear some more about what the boards say and how people, hopefully, will be inspired by them.
I think what they'll see is what we kind of find with the project is people will be kind of surprised to see these kind of words on display in the public arena. That does tend to happen. I get pictures from around the world because we've been doing this for 3 years now. And people always say, that was weird to see it there, but it was lovely. And these messages are empowering, they're motivational, they're positive, and they're to make you pause and reflect. That is the point. With mental health, when you're stuck in that kind of bubble and it's kind of all consuming, sometimes it's that pull out of that bubble where you're distracted. And these messages are there to distract you in a good way, and to make your experience as you're out there, you're worried about things, is to make you stop and to make you pause and reflect. And when people do that, things are more easy to deal with.
It's great, isn't it, that idea that you go into the train station because, it's not about what you're doing at that moment. It's about what you've got to do for the rest of the day and where you're going. But actually to almost shock people out of that, to kind of say there's something else going on here, is I think will make a real difference. Tell us about the inspiration behind the words that people will see. Does that come from your personal experience? Where does it sit?
Yeah, personal experience, a bit of both. I write books. That's what I've done. I've got about 6 books out. Been doing it for about 20 years. And then I would share these online, my work online. People would say, that made my day, or I needed that today. And I thought, take it outdoors, social experiment. If you could do it online, you can do it outdoors. So these are snippets of bigger pieces that are bite-sized chunks for people that are on that busy commute that haven't got time to read a whole piece, but they're inspirational and they're motivational, and it just makes kind of life, that bit easier.
Can you tell us how people will actually see it? Well, how will these messages and these poems, these short verses, how will they appear?
Well, what I know of, they're basically on posters. I think there's going to be tannoy announcements. I think they're giving out seed packets as well with the quotes on. Yes, that you can plant the paper and it grows into flowers. So very different things as well. So there's a whole host of different things happening that I've kind of seen it all. It's lovely and it's beautiful. And I think people will really benefit what I've seen over the past 3 years, the project do around the world. I think it will help a lot of people.
I think without a doubt, people sort of, even if they don't realize it, enjoy public art, seeing something that's a little bit out of the ordinary that makes them sort of think, oh, I'd never thought about that before. I'd never seen that before. And this is actually one of those sort of really simple ways of making that happen, isn't it? That people will see these messages and they're used to on a poster seeing an advert for a coffee shop or a takeaway or whatever it would be. But to see something which is about them and potentially very personal to them is one of those things which goes to show that we're making our mental health very much part of our everyday lives, if you like.
I think the project is about breaking that stigma by having the words in a public place. And I think that if people see these words and see other people seeing them and liking them and taking pictures, then the way they're feeling is not all that bad. They can then be vocal about how they feel. I think sometimes when you feel things and you're scared that what you're feeling you can't talk about, that's where you bottle it up and it gets worse. But when you see these feelings of how you're feeling in the public domain, outdoors, with people kind of loving them and taking pictures, it makes it that much more easier. And I think that's what the project does. It breaks down that wall really well.
I think that's really powerful because I think a lot of people, even though they might experience the same feelings, they don't have the vocabulary or the knowledge to sort of explain what those feelings are. And it's interesting, isn't it, that sometimes people might associate it with a song or a feeling, maybe a painting. And actually art can be used in that way, can't it? For people who can't find the words, they can find the inspiration or find someone else who's offering them that outlet.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these words are supposed to inspire, but like I say, they're also supposed to make you pause and reflect. And I think that is, and the reason I started the project in 2018 on the London Underground is because it's the busiest place I could find. I mean, I had some people that would message me say, I've missed my train because I was basically trying to take a picture of the actual quote because it meant so much to them. And I think that is the thing. I think some of these, everyone will see the message or the messages, but everyone will take something different from it. And I think that is the power of poetry and words, really.
Absolutely. Let's bring Louise into the conversation. Louise McNally, suicide prevention lead for Network Rail. Louise, you find yourself in this sort of, there's almost two roles you play. That first and foremost, you find yourself very much on the front line of some people's mental health crises, but at the same time, you're very much a part of everyone's lives because of the way people travel around the country. And Network Rail have really sort of tried to sort of make the most of that opportunity to create these moments of engagement.
That's it, and I think we do a lot of work, training our staff, or the entire industry really, rail industry employees to intervene when somebody does appear on the railway either in distress or in crisis. But through this campaign, this is a slightly newer approach for us because we're trying to catch people a little bit earlier on their sort of mental health journey. So we want to encourage people really to access mental health support services at the earliest opportunity, as soon as they realise that they're struggling. And we want to do that to avoid them getting into a situation where they might be in crisis or in distress and come to the railway or anywhere else for that matter.
And in terms of the numbers who are sort of coming through the doors, if you like, as the world starts to reopen, I know you're seeing sort of across the country, those numbers start to increase. And for a lot of people, the first step into, back into the office will be the first step back through sort of into their local train station and those sort of major transport hubs as well. So, you guys that might be the first sort of outside influence, if you like, that a lot of people have.
That's it, and there's been some recent YouGov research that is telling us that 28% of people in the Northwest say that they've travelled into work every day since restrictions were lifted. and half of people in the region say that being around colleagues boosts their mental health. So what we want to do is just make that journey through the station just a little bit brighter before they even get to the point where they're at work. So we know that people can see stations as quite transactional, anonymous places, and we kind of want to turn that perception on its head and see stations, because actually they are actually full of community. They can be full of community and connection, and we're trying to encourage that perception a little bit more.
I took my children out on the rail network for the first time since lockdown, actually, just the weekend just gone, and we literally went up to the next station along. But I don't know if you know Preston Station, but it's sort of a major hub station. It's the old sort of Victorian building, and I've used it hundreds and hundreds of times. But when I was there with my kids, and I was trying to say, like, make sure you look at the painting, look at all the different look how many different train tracks, look at how many the bridges there are and tunnels. And it made me think myself, oh, actually, this is a slightly more interesting building than I thought.
It really is. And now in some stations across the country, you've got the added beauty of some of these installations that are going in, and they're really very beautiful, floral installations, lovely calming smells of lavender and bird song, sounds of water. So it should be quite a nice experience for people.
I know people have sort of been encouraged to embrace nature, but with the weather that we've had in the last sort of week or so, people might feel like they want to move away from that just a little bit in favour of the warm coat and the central heating. Just explain how sort of nature will play a part in this project.
So we know that nature or interaction with nature can lift people's spirits. It does have an effect on people's well-being. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to use the power of nature to brighten people's day, because they do look, beautiful. The installations really do appeal to the senses. It should just be a lovely experience.
Brilliant stuff. Just tell us about your relationship with the likes of Jake Mills and Chasing the Stigma, the work you've done, for instance, promoting the Hub of Hope around the country, because, of course, that's one of those brilliant local services that operates nationally, a lot like, I guess, Network Rail.
Absolutely. So that partnership with Chasing the Stigma is really important for us, because it gives us a way to be able to it's one way that people can very simply and easily understand what their local mental health support services are and how to access them. So we are, as I say, we're trying to encourage people to access those services as soon as they realise that they're struggling. So we're directing them towards the Hub of Hope and encouraging people to use it, firstly, to understand what it is and what it does, but then to make contact with those mental health services as soon as they feel that they're struggling.
Absolutely. Hubofhope.co.uk. Use the app. It'll use the location on your device to find those local services close to you. I always mention that at the end of every podcast as well, that service is available right across the UK. Its founder, Jake Mills, joins us back on the programme. Jake, it's great to get you on again. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Once again, people are talking about mental health within public environments, within day-to-day normal environments. This is what it's all about, isn't it? And this is a big part of what Chasing the Stigma is all about too.
Absolutely. It's trying to make those conversations really normal. This display for me is the perfect example of how you can use something to talk about mental health that maybe you wouldn't associate with mental health. I think it's really, really powerful that the words mental health are used next to a beautiful display in the middle of Waterloo Station. It's getting people engaged, it's getting people asking questions, it's using poetry, it's just changing the way we can talk and think about mental health. And it's I was in Waterloo Station where the display is today, and the way that people are engaging with it, they're coming over because the flowers are real flowers, and they're coming over to smell the flowers, to touch it, to get pictures with it, and then suddenly there's a conversation there about mental health. You're giving them, as James mentioned, giving a leaflet that actually is seeded paper. You literally plant the leaflet and something will grow from it, and all of this is happening, and then right there and on the leaflet and as part of the conversation is by the way, if you need help and support with your mental health, is the Hub of Hope. So it's a brilliant example of how you can really take a conversation that people are worried about having about mental health and make it really easy and quite a nice conversation to have.
It's almost revolutionary, isn't it? As an idea that you basically say, we're going to do something that puts people's mental health front and center in an engaging way, in an attractive way, that the mental health message isn't, a secondary thought. It's actually about what the whole thing is. So many people are so used to going in and seeing the departures board, the coffee shop, and an advert for whatever film is coming out. But actually to say that mental health has a place at the center of people's commutes and therefore people's lives in many cases, just goes to show how far the mental health world is stepping into the everyday world.
Yeah, but I have to say as well, though, I think it shows the type of organization that Network Rail is, that they have this thinking to try and do things a little bit differently, to try and to have the bravery, if you will, to say let's try something different. And again, with this display, it's evoking emotions in people, and then you're using those emotions that then have been piqued, that interest that's been piqued to then bring it back around to mental health. How's this made you feel? Well, actually, this is a positive for your mental health. And you've just said before, Mick, as well, over the last 18 months or so, we started to appreciate things like going outside, like nature, like bird song, like these different things that we take for granted. And yes, the weather's changed, and yes, it's not so much about going for walks at the moment, but by bringing that inside, having it in stations across the country and using that as a way of being able to connect people, because going back on your daily commute, going back to normal is not an easy thing for everybody. So it's just this way of trying to, I don't know, engage people, make them feel a little bit better on that daily commute, with poetry, with the display as well. And then just letting them know quite gently, quite nicely, if you need help and support, here's how you can find it.
Yeah, let's bring James back into the conversation now. James McInerney. I wonder if that's a big part of it, James, that people, as they sort of head back out into their commute, they probably might look at something like this and go, "Oh, I needed that. I needed to see that. I needed those words today, if you like."
Yeah, we get that all the while because like I said, we started the underground. That's where we kind of started, and I would get kind of daily messages of pictures of the service information boards that the stations had with the project, and then I would get comments like, if you looked at the caption underneath the Instagram post, "I needed this today. This made my day," and it's all those similar messages, and to me that says this is needed. You could have everything else, but I think something as simple as this, you could really think about this and go over the top and end up having something that doesn't really do it. But this is basic and simple. And when it's that way, and it's not complicated, it's not trying to sell you anything. It's actually for you. It's done for you. The people kind of see that, it makes their day, and that muscle memory of where they see it as well. They associate the two things with they've had a nice experience, and that will really help, I think. And it just that sticks with you for the rest of the day, especially if you get it kind of see it in the morning, and it's the start of your commute. You're really not in a good headspace, especially on a Monday, and you think, "Oh, I can't be bothered today, and I'm really not feeling." And then you see this, and it makes you smile, and it kind of changes that mindset. And then you remember where you saw it, and then and like I say, there is a community there. And I just think it's something different, something original. And people see it with a bit of shock as to, that's a weird place to see that, but they see it in a good way. And I think that can only be good for everyone.
I think so as well. And sometimes we focus on, the fact that some people are either in a crisis or people are struggling with their mental health. But what I actually quite like is the idea that somebody's only having a 7 out of 10 day, sees that, and it just makes them feel like they might have an 8 or a 9 out of 10 day instead. And actually that enforced positivity, if you like, comes their way in a way they weren't expecting. But it's like a free bonus on your mental health.
I think this should be everywhere. I think there should be more people doing this. I've been doing this for 3 years, but I think everywhere you should be able to come out of your house in the morning, walk down the street, instead of seeing a kind of advert for an £800 pair of trainers you're never going to want. I think there should be messages of support and hope, because this goes a long way to helping people. And it is basic and it is simple, but it does the job. And I think there should be more people thinking about advertising and how they advertise, and look at this kind of concept and say, you know, we can help people instead of just posting a picture of trainers. And I think we should really look at how we use our advertising space.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today. All the best for the project as it spreads right across the country in the build-up to World Mental Health Day as well. From Glasgow, we mentioned London as well for launch as well, Liverpool, various different places in between as well. I'll get all the details up on the website for that one. James McInerney, founder of the Poetry Project, thank you for your time. Louise McNally, Suicide Prevention Lead for Network Rail. Louise, a pleasure. And Jake Mills, always a pleasure to get you on, CEO of Chasing the Stigma and founder of the Hub of Hope.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope. Type in your postcode. It'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're experiencing a personal crisis, you're unable to cope and need support. Shout to 85258. That's a text line. Do get involved in those services. In an absolute emergency, always remember the number to call is 999. Thanks for downloading the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with more Mental Health Monday.